So this is to call to order the January 28th meeting, 2019 meeting of the Arlington Redevelopment Board, recorded by ACMi. I see a big group here, but I am thinking that you may not understand that this is not a public discussion of warrant articles today at all. But I'm glad you're here and you're welcome, but we actually are going to talk about the process in a minute of community engagement and outreach for the annual town meeting warrant articles, but not about the articles themselves. And Jenny, you can probably let everybody know at some point in the meeting when that public meeting will be, when we'll be talking about the warrant articles again. So our first item of business is the community engagement and outreach plan for the 2019 annual town meeting warrant articles, and Jenny and Aaron are going to talk about that.
Perfect. Thank you, Andy, and thanks to all of you. So I've given to you tonight basically a draft outreach plan similar to what we talked about during zoning recodification, which basically outlines what the meetings will be, which includes your public hearings, what kind of town meeting member outreach we would like to do, and how we will engage different media outlets. So I've divided it into these three groups. The first one is just outlining all of the meetings. I think that's a good place to start. The first one is all of the ARB's public hearings, which, as you know, will be throughout the month of March on Mondays. Then we're planning to have neighborhood meetings, which are ideally targeted to town meeting members, but also, of course, open to the public. And those are now scheduled for March 27th, March 28th, April 3rd, and April 4th. They all start at 7 p.m. and they're in schools throughout the community. Again, similar to recodification process. And then we'll have meetings with the Master Plan Implementation Committee, the Housing Plan Implementation Committee, and the Residential Study Group. Those will mostly happen in April, but some of them will happen sooner, depending upon when those meetings are specifically scheduled, and Aaron helps with all of that too. Yep. Meetings with all of the merchant associations. I think we may have mentioned this the last time we met, but I can't remember specifically if I mentioned that we already have meetings scheduled in all of the business districts on a regular basis, monthly. So we are planning to have meetings with all of those groups ongoing. It actually says April for both of these, but it's actually ongoing for each one of these rows. And then meetings with property owners and associations, depending upon the building, throughout the community. That would also be an ongoing activity. So those are all of the noted meetings, but the whole point of talking about this tonight is to get additional feedback about other ways that we can reach out to people. Just as a sidebar, we had a meeting that CHAPA ran last Thursday night, and that included a long list of other ideas that were talked about of ways to reach out to people and ways to engage new people in the conversation about all of the zoning articles. Particularly in that case, we were talking about the multifamily articles, but we have other zoning articles to also engage people on. So we can talk about that too. So now I'm just going to talk about the town meeting member outreach. As you may recall from zoning recodification, we can't email town meeting members typically until we get the go-ahead from the town moderator. So we will reach out to the town moderator to see if we can access the town meeting member list, and then continue to engage them as often as we possibly can between now and town meeting. There might be some shifts in terms of town meeting members as of early April, I believe. And so that might mean a different list of people or a new list of people, which is the reason for having, straddling the meetings in the neighborhoods between different town meeting members, because we're going to have different slate of people to talk with. So the town meeting member outreach is everything from personal contact with town meeting members and other stakeholders, email announcements, direct mailings about all of the upcoming meetings, targeted outreach and mailings and emails, any other announcements that we can possibly do through the town meeting member list, but also mail if possible, because there are some town meeting members who do not provide their email address. So whatever contact information is provided is what we will use in order to reach out to them. And of course, again, contingent upon our ability to access that list. And then the last group of things involves all of the different, other types of media outreach, which is everything from community newsletters, neighborhood Facebook pages, town website updates, all of the usual, print publications, your Arlington, various PowerPoint presentations that we're going to put together, editorials, working with ACMi, and then town notices. So, there's a town meeting member list, and then there's a town notice list, which is not just the people who subscribe for A or B notices, but people who just get town notices in general. And then all of the other social media that the town uses, which is mostly Twitter and Facebook, to my knowledge. And then in terms of documents, aside from the PowerPoint materials that we'll develop, we're working on an FAQ right now. I'm guessing that we'll have an expanded FAQ, again, similar to what we did for zoning recodification. And then lastly, we'll do an amendment guide, also similar to recodification, where we'll do everything from, the whole narrative of what we're talking about, why it's being presented, and then some level of comparison to the existing bylaw versus what's proposed. I think that's everything.
Yeah.
And I think there might have been, some other things again that we talked about last Thursday night, but glad to fill in any other blanks.
If I might, I just do want to point out that the school department needs to confirm those dates, so they are still tentative as of today.
So the March meetings
Yeah.
that's the public hearings.
The March meetings of the ARB are public hearings. Yeah,
Right.
March 4th, 11th,
And how will
18th, and
do we
25th.
organize those by group of?
We're gonna go through, I think, by sort of, group of
Warrant articles.
warrant articles. And I think that the second, third, and fourth will be the ones where at some point we will talk about the multifamily warrant articles, which I know has generated the most interest. But we have to get through signs, we have to get through the other warrant articles as well.
So will there be any in February that are public hearings?
There's no posted public hearing in February at all.
Okay,
And there's 2 meetings in February, so there's February 4th
right.
and February 25th.
But those are not public.
Those are just our regular board meetings. And the one on the 25th, I think, at this point, we have a special permit public hearing. But that's not related to this. So,
And when will any additional materials go out, to describe? Maps, graphics, anything like that?
the timeline for getting build out, visualizations, all those other graphics, I think is over the next month.
Yeah.
So that'll be over February, so
Over
we'll
February.
be ready before March the
Before
1st.
March,
Yeah.
for sure.
So that's the basic intensive timeline, which really kicks off heavily beginning of March.
Yes.
Yes.
So how
Go
far,
ahead.
how far in
You go.
advance of the public hearings will the actual proposed language for the zoning amendments
Yeah.
be available?
You wanna talk
Yep,
about that?
so the legal ad will be in the Arlington Advocate on the 14th, February 14th, and the following Thursday. It needs to be noticed twice, at least 14 days before the public hearing, the first publication, at least 14 days. With that publication, the amendment text needs to be available. So we're looking at February 14th.
And then, do the ARB comment on that at that point, or we go right into public hearings?
It's something that we post as a legal notice, and then you'll have your public hearing starting on March 4th,
And we also comment, obviously, on it as well as the public.
right, as part of the public hearing process.
Any other questions? Ken, you have any questions?
Yeah, when we did the zoning recodifications last year, there was another group of meetings, or one meeting, that I thought was really helpful, was we invited all the town department heads in for like a Sunday, it was a Sunday morning brunch or something like that.
Yeah.
And each department had a chance to review it
Mm-hmm.
to see if there's any unintentional consequences of what we do here to each and every department. So we're not gonna know every little thing, but at least we give the departments a chance to take a look at it and say, well, what you're doing here, it's gonna affect us this way, this way. So at least we get the chance to hear it. I think that what we did last year was really good and successful. And I wouldn't mind suggesting if we can squeeze it in here. It's just kind of tight right here.
Well, I can definitely talk with department heads about it
Mhm.
at our regular meeting, but the all-board meeting is what you might also be talking about.
That's what I was talking about, yes.
And that we can figure out a way to organize, yeah.
And that was just a simple, everybody sort of took a Saturday afternoon off and or Saturday morning, and we just came in and we all sat there and just listened to everybody.
Yeah.
So you get finance and building department and everybody.
Yes, and
Legal,
yeah, everybody, all the departments,
that could be really helpful.
yeah. And then, so then we don't know, then we see if there are any unintentional consequences.
Mm-hmm.
That at least we expanded the horizon a little bit.
Okay.
One relevant working group that I don't see on here is the zoning
Zoning
bylaw
bylaw.
working group.
Yeah, I knew I was missing somebody, sorry about that, of course.
That
is
seems like an important one.
Meant to be on there, yep.
That might be a good
Yes.
idea.
Seemed vacant of one or two, I'm not
Mhm.
sure. We have a lot of working groups, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Are there any others? Because that was me in my quick,
No, I think the four, the Master Plan Implementation Committee, the Housing Plan Implementation Committee, the Residential Study Group, and the Zoning Bylaw Working Group are the four major ones that we're working with right now.
And I like the extent of outreach planned and the different methods and media that are proposed to be used. I'm thinking, I've seen discussions online over the last few months from individuals or people representing groups in town who are concerned that they can't generally attend evening meetings and hearings. The hearings, I know they are when they are, but if we can identify, whether internally or through information from the public, groups that are concerned about the zoning warrant articles and their potential impacts and consequences, we might want to consider adding some direct outreach to those groups and go where those people are at times when it's convenient to them, to make sure that they have an opportunity to participate in the discussion.
okay.
Gene?
I think this looks very complete, especially with the suggested additions. One of the things we talked about last week is having some discussion with at least one representative of the Conservation Commission about the flood districts part. So I think
Yeah.
we at least need to build that in for ourselves.
They're actually coming to the February 25th meeting,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry to forget that, yeah.
Okay,
It's Nathaniel
Great.
Stevens will be here.
that's excellent.
So this list gets published how, other than as minutes?
We'll post it on the page, probably the ARB page, and then the zoning bylaw, the NPIC page technically, Master Plan Implementation Committee. So that's where it will live.
And those will all get added to the online calendar too.
Yes,
Okay.
they'll-
Just so this is a great list, everybody can see when all the action is, so maybe we
Yeah.
should make sure it gets to everybody so they don't say,
Right,
we never were told. That's happened on occasion, I think.
yeah.
So I'm kind of into the whole graphic material that goes along. I know you're preparing it,
Yeah.
and I was giving Aaron an earful last time. Is that gonna be brought up by February 14th or brought out?
It's more like March.
Yeah, that might be too tight of a timeline
Mhm.
for it to be prepared. It will be definitely available as we go into the public hearings during March.
Right.
Who's preparing it?
We are requesting that MAPC provide some additional services. So they are providing visualizations, a shadow study, and a parcel analysis.
So there's some funding set
Yes.
aside so we can get something done professionally.
That's right.
And,
Yeah.
Okay.
And working with the same, the group who's helping with these, I don't
Okay.
have, another duplicative
No, no,
situation, so
that's-
we're trying to get them to continue the work.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If, when we see the wording, we end up making some changes in the wording,
Mhm.
which could happen,
Mhm.
I'm hoping that MAPC will be able to do quick turnaround and sort of with some new graphics if we'll need them.
Yeah, I think that has been accounted for.
Okay.
So they would be getting that at the beginning of March.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point. We gotta just make sure, because it's so valuable,
Mhm.
and we don't want, mistakes or whatever to get dragged forward.
So we'll have the proposed amendment language in mid-February when the public notice happens.
Yep.
And what's the time frame for also having the FAQ and amendment guide and graphics and all that?
Yeah, so the FAQ will be ready sooner than that, and we'll post it. Just needs to be reviewed internally. The amendment guide, because that can be a pretty substantial document, is to be honest, still in the works. So that I think will be more of a March timeframe than a February.
I recognize how much work it is, having worked on the one that was created for the recodification. But I would recommend getting that out to the public as close as possible to when the proposed language goes out, so that it minimizes
Mhm.
questions and confusion that would otherwise be answered by having the guide.
Absolutely.
Good. So that covers that. And then there are two other items that we need our chairman here, I think is what you said.
Yeah, I do.
The organizational meeting, and so we need
We
Andy.
need to all be here.
Yeah, and then the meeting schedule for March, right, we'll wait till he's back.
Right,
And our next meeting's next Monday, and be there.
yeah, so we'll do it on Monday.
Okay.
We need a motion to put these aside or just move ahead?
Yeah, I mean, you can move to accept the first item, actually, with the amendments, which is what I think you were starting to do, Chief.
I wasn't, but.
Oh, okay, maybe I'm imagining that, but you like it as amended.
With the understanding that, yes, let's move to accept it as amended, with the understanding we may change the dates when we have a meeting
Yeah.
to discuss the dates.
Right,
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
and then
Okay.
for moving these items, I think you can just wait until, you can just postpone them.
Okay, we're postponing those two items. And we're moving right to meeting minutes. It's gonna be a quick meeting. So, let's us start off with December 17th. Is that the first one?
Yeah,
December 17th notes. And anybody who has anything to say, Ken?
I have no issues.
I only looked at these very quickly as we got them,
okay.
but I don't see any myself.
I had one comment on the January 16th minutes.
Okay.
Let's take them one at a
Yeah,
time.
okay, so let's go. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 17th.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
January 7th, 2019 minutes.
The only potential change I have is in the second paragraph.
Yeah,
I think the board voted all in favor 4-0 and not 5-0 at the end, because.
oh, yeah, because
But-
you were,
Right, because people weren't at
Right,
the
okay.
meeting, they couldn't vote there. So just change, I think, the end So 4-0, and I've forgotten who abstained. Did you abstain?
I think I did.
I think Ken abstained.
I think you're correct, yeah.
That's my only change on that. So I move to accept them with the one change I noted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes of January 16th, 2019.
In the second paragraph that
Mhm.
starts Ms. Rate began with Article A.
Yep.
A couple of sentences in, Mr. Watson stated he was not in favor of moving forward tonight.
Oh, yeah,
I-
that's,
I-
that's a,
That was, I think what I was talking about was I expressed concern with whether we should move forward specifically with the floodplain
yeah,
and
it
inland
was in
wetlands
relationship to that. Yeah.
articles, due to my understanding that the Conservation Commission was not in agreement with what they wanted to do with those articles long term.
Right.
So if we could amend it accordingly.
How would you change it then?
Yeah, can you suggest language?
Mr. Watson expressed concern with moving forward with the floodplain district and inland wetlands warrant articles due to uncertainty regarding the Conservation Commission's position on them.
Except, the prior sentence says the Conservation Commission approved these as is.
Well,
So-
not the warrant articles,
yeah, okay.
the Conservation Commission's position on other substantive changes to those bylaws.
Okay.
I think that was my concern, not really the technical changes that were being proposed in these articles. I did
Those ones
vote.
don't have any substantive changes.
They don't.
left.
They're
No,
yeah,
there's.
they're technical changes.
Okay.
But I was just, I realize we're doing those first, and then the Conservation Commission will figure out what to do with the more substantive issues that were identified during the recodification process.
Yeah.
But I was questioning whether we should split the two pieces of it between the technical corrections and the more substantive, but I did end up voting in favor of moving it forward, so
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure my concern was accurately captured.
Okay. I will make an amendment.
No issues.
David,
You can
Motion
make
approved
Okay.
as amended?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I think that is it.
The correspondence.
Correspondence. So tell us what we're receiving.
We received, I received actually, an email with the attached warrant language and proposed motion, and some remarks from Steve Revelek, who's also happens to be here tonight, with regard to a warrant article that he filed. And he wanted to bring it to the board's attention. It is regarding an amendment to the inclusionary zoning or affordability requirements as they're noted in the zoning bylaw under 8.2. And the substance of that proposed amendment would be to increase as the level of units increases, there would be higher levels of affordability requirements.
Well,
So-
just 20% for 20 or more units, right? Doesn't step up, it just goes up one step.
Just one step, yeah. And so that was my quick summary. If you want to ask any other questions about it or talk about it at another date, we will be having a hearing on this one too.
Well, I just want to ask one question. It's just one change. That's how I understood this when I read this, okay? It's just that if it's 20 or more units, it goes to 20%, and that's it.
That's it.
There's nothing else. I mean, right now we have it as 6 or more,
Mhm.
50%.
right,
But
that's
we
already
just
existing.
we just add another step to it.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, besides, go ahead.
Well, I'm looking forward to discussing this. I do think it's a good opportunity for us to discuss ways to make sure that as we are looking at increasing density, that we are also increasing the availability of affordable housing. And this is certainly one approach to that. And there are potentially others as well. And I'd like us not to miss the opportunity to at least have that discussion while we're making the changes regarding multifamily density.
Agreed. Is the advisory committee or the, they
The
wait?
zoning bylaw
Yeah,
working group,
yeah.
that we can have them, we can refer it to them.
I'd like to see, would we wanna have them weigh in on it
Sure.
and see how it fits with everything,
Mhm.
if they have any issues with that. So we'll have all the information together when we take it up next time.
Steve also sits on that committee.
Perfect.
Working group. Yeah, so
do
that
we need,
works out.
do we need to make a motion to refer it to the working group?
I think you should.
So I move to refer the proposed zoning bylaw amendment filed by Mr. Revelak to the zoning bylaw working group.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, short meeting, but if there's anything else, we can discuss it now, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Covering this for your Arlington, could I have copies of the documents?
All of this is posted.
This is all posted on the town's,
But-
as part of Novus agenda.
It's on
You
the
can
website.
probably get a copy from them.
I didn't.
It's right
see it.
online, yeah.
Oh,
I
this,
didn't see it
this
as
one
of this
is.
afternoon.
Well, this one is actually in the process of being amended, based
Yeah.
on the amendments tonight, so I'm gonna post this one once we have all of the updates
That's
based
the
on the
schedule.
board's input. Yeah, so this will be posted right
But
after
the
that.
schedules are on the,
The schedule will be posted on the ARB's page, the town website,
but you say.
and the master plan
So you say
implementation
will,
committee.
but I have a deadline, so if I could have a copy now, that would be helpful. There's no
because
reason
it's
it's
part
a
of the public
secret.
You can, absolutely, yeah, no, I'm just
I
telling
wrote
you
on mine
that
too.
it will be amended, and the amended
That's all
version is
right.
we're gonna.
Maybe just write on it, will be amended,
Well,
so
it says
that's
that,
clear.
actually.
It says draft.
Yeah,
I-
fine.
You have.
Yes,
It's all,
and I'll send it.
all public
Yeah.
documents.
With the understanding that it's not complete.
Dates and details subject to change.
Yes, clearly the school ones that look like they're actually